Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome to Masterclass. Oh, good crowd already. Okay.
People went to merch.
So I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks on writing and production, and I'm gonna break down 3 o'clock things today, if that's cool. So this is Pro Tools here. Here, I'll play for 1 second.
Come on, guy. I promise everything will be alright.
This isn't really the concert where you sing this.
Oh, come on!
Because you wouldn't want to miss a thing.
Was that kind of old-fashioned vocal. It's called close harmony choir, and it was really big in the 1940s and 50s. You kind of know it as soon as you hear it. Like, this is a good example. It's a very specific style of harmony, and I think a lot of what they're doing is normally harmonies are, like, especially country music, is made out of 1, 3, 5, just kind of basic chords, and this is using a lot of 6, 7s, like kind of weird chords, and I think they try to get across the feeling that the whole vocal is like moving as one organism, because you can't really hear specific melodies. I don't even know what the lead melody is there. It's kind of just like one big organism moving. And so we wanted to kind of capture that feeling and I guess juxtapose it with like more of a hip hop beat. So we recorded this stuff. And in the past, when we wanted to do these old-fashioned vocals, we recorded it with actual, like 1950s ribbon mics, like for "Your Eyes Are Open," that stuff on Next Up Forever. We went into a studio and recorded a real choir on these actual, authentic, old-fashioned mics. We did this during the pandemic, so we couldn't get a choir, we couldn't get into a studio or any of that. So we kind of had to do it synthetically. So we used what's called EQ. And basically what you're seeing here is all the frequencies on the spectrum. On the right side is the high-end kind of crispy, splashy stuff. And on the left side is the low, kind of rumbly, shake the room stuff. And in the 50s, have you ever seen those speakers from the 50s that are like the brass horns? All that could handle was mid. It couldn't handle any of the high or low. And so naturally you have a lot of people singing with a lot of mid, with a lot of nasal, "We are the family man," like kind of sound. And so it's just an interesting way that technology affects the way music sounds. And so we wanted to synthetically carve out the high, carve out the low, and just have mid like this. And immediately it just sounds old-fashioned. Come on, guys, I promise everything will be alright. I can talk about the bass line. Oh, by the way, if anybody has questions about anything, just raise your hand. This has worked really well to keep this as just like a fluid conversation. So literally questions about anything. Okay, so I think we draw from hip-hop a lot in this song. For example, this bass line here. It was a big trick in like early 2000s hip-hop, like Eminem, to establish a melody, and then as soon as Eminem starts rapping, a different instrument takes over and continues to play that melody. So like Eminem would go a chorus, and then he'd start rapping and a flute would suddenly go. So an example of that here, we have this bass line that I said. As soon as Jack starts singing, it's kind of funny how I paid for a marimba takes over going. And you can hear that's kind of behind Jack's voice. Then I would have had to spend my best years skipping ads and reading comments. Just kind of a melody that gets caught in your head, even though it's not like a main hook. Questions about anything so far? Yeah. Did I use the same orchestra from Neo Theater for OK Orchestra? No. For Neo Theater, we recorded a real orchestra, and during the pandemic, I couldn't do any of that. So it was kind of a weird moment where I got really good at faking orchestra. And I found that it worked really well to do a combination of like fake horns, fake strings that I do as synthesizers, and then get like one real violinist on top of it. And that kind of human, like naturally strings kind of sound like, they're very expressive, but fake strings sound like ba. It's like you can kind of tell a computer made it. So the combination of those two makes your ear go, okay, there's some human in there, but it sounds really thick, like a big orchestra. Yeah, good question. Yeah. Have I ever heard a song that's influenced by what? Who did you say? I don't know who that is. MF Doom? I've never even heard of him. Okay, I'll check it out. Okay, all right. I'll check him out. R.I.P. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you get the meet and greet one?
To place a beat in the song? Is that what you're asking? I think after doing it for so long, it just kind of feels natural. We definitely go with what our instinct is. I think something we learned early on, I think a lot of new producers try to throw everything into a song. Because it's a really exciting thing now, especially with the internet. It's not like in the days of the Beatles, you had like 5 instruments to work with. Now I have everything. I have an infinite amount of synths and sound effects, anything to work with. So it's more of the case of like, what's the sculpture within the marble as opposed to making something from scratch. So anyway, as I was saying, the first tendency of making songs is, I want to throw in all the craziest sound effects and I'm going to have 100 cool things in this song. And then you play it for your friends and they don't notice any of the cool things because they're just like overstimulated. And so once you make 200 songs or whatever and get that out of your system, you get to the point where you realize, oh, if I do like 2 or 3 cool things in this song, people will actually notice. And I'll show you some of them, but it's definitely at that point where it's like, okay, let's parcel it out a little bit and find the cool stuff and put it in one at a time. So I have here, here's a good example. Right before the drop, there's a sound of me screaming. It's a track called Scream Ryan. Oh, here.
Scream Ryan.
Here, Noah, make this nice and loud so they can hear.
Oh.
So we thought it sounds kind of funny alone, but we thought like, what's more attention catching than the human voice where it sounds like it's in trouble, somebody's in trouble, I should be alarmed. It kind of makes you pay attention. So we thought, what a great psychological way to make you pay attention before the drop hits. And then you start paying attention to when the drop hits. So here we have trumpets, and we recorded real trumpets for this. And the way we got that old-fashioned sound is essentially what I was saying about the harmonies, how there are all these like weird 6th and 7ths. We would take out one vocal, put in a trumpet instead. Take out another vocal, put in a trumpet instead. And it added up to this very realistic, old-fashioned sounding trumpet. And then below that we did flutes. And we had never really recorded flutes before, but we got live flutes. And once you add them together, now it sounds like an old-fashioned, like Louis Prima kind of orchestra. Yeah, question? What was the moment that we decided that AJR was going to take these influences from like old-timey sounds? I think, I'm trying to think what the moment was. It was probably around I'm Ready, because I think before I'm Ready, it was very much about emulating other people. It was like really exciting to come home from middle school or high school or whatever and try making a Broadway sounding song or try making a piratey sounding song or a hip-hop sounding song. And then with I'm Ready, that was the moment where we thought, let's stop emulating and let's kind of combine everything we've tried to do before into one sound. And that's why I'm Ready has the Frankie Valli doo-wop influence and the tempo change like Broadway and dubstep and SpongeBob. It was kind of just us going, what if we just combine all of this together and make a sound that's uniquely AJR? And I think often when I try to do something that just sounds modern, if I'm trying to do like a drop or something and it ends up sounding too much like the Chainsmokers or whatever, my brain goes to, I'm never going to do the Chainsmokers better than the Chainsmokers are doing it. I'm just going to be a cheaper version, so why not do what I know best? And that happens to be the old-fashioned kind of orchestra style. Yeah, in the front. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so you're asking about sound effects in our music. We like to do this a lot. We Did you guys have this at the start of the pandemic at like 7 p.m. people would applaud for like the frontline workers and the doctors and stuff?
Yeah.
So they did that in New York, and one night I stuck a microphone out my window and recorded it, and I put it into ordinary-ish people during the drop here. Maybe you'll be able to hear it. Ready? It's got a lot of reverb on it, but you can still kind of hear that it accentuates the drop, right? Not that you would know that's New York at 7 p.m., but it kind of adds to the drop. It kind of puts a sonic fingerprint on it for me that I know I was making the song during the pandemic at that time. So I think we like to take a lot of tactile sounds and layer them into the music. Of course, yeah. These are great questions so far. Yeah, go ahead.
So for your Dear Winter song, I know that it goes A minor, walk down like G, F, and
Yeah.
that's also in it's the Hey There Delilah. It also has that A minor walk down to F. Is that was that inspired anywhere, or is that just a coincidence?
Oh wow, was Dear Winter inspired by Hey There Delilah? I know what you're saying. Hey minor, walk down F. Yeah, I think a lot of Beatles songs have that too. A lot of Bob Dylan songs have that too. I think probably us and Plain White Tees are drawing from the same place, as opposed to we're drawing from Plain White Tees kind of thing. Yeah, good question though. Yeah.
Hey, so what makes you choose Pro Tools over Logic?
What makes me choose Pro Tools over Logic? At the time when I learned Pro Tools, it was like 14 years ago, Pro Tools was better at the live instrumentation stuff, and Logic was better at the EDM synth kind of stuff. Now, since then, the technology has caught up where they both basically do the same thing, and Ableton also, and GarageBand, quite frankly, kind of does the same thing. I think that you could make any of this stuff on GarageBand. So if you're looking to get into it, just pick one and go for it. Oh, you're not looking to get into it, okay. Yeah, go ahead. Any chance you can pull down the mouse just so I can read your lips? Yeah. Can someone repeat the question? Sorry. Oh, how do I create the overture? A lot of the overture is the background tracks from songs that I've scrapped. So I tend to write a lot of songs that I then throw out completely. I'll come back to you for 1 second, but 3 O'Clock Things is a really good example of that. We wrote an entire song called Writer's Block during the pandemic, and it took like a month to write, and it was really political and had a whole track and everything, and we ended up throwing out the entire song except for one line, which was, if you're fucking racist, don't come to my show. And so we knew, okay, nothing about this song is worth keeping except that line is really good. And so there are a lot of examples. 3 O'Clock Things is kind of an amalgamation of 4 different songs that we had written, and the overture often becomes that. You know the beat, still Joe, do you think, that beat, that background beat, is an entire song that we had written called Kill the Joke, that we scrapped everything except that little beat, and ended up saving for overture. So often it comes from that, it comes from just spitballing, what song have I not used yet, what am I in the mood to hear next, and just kind of trusting our instincts. Any questions? Yeah. We have what, and does it affect the themes? Oh, Jewish. Does it affect our music? You know what, we're not very religiously Jewish, so I wouldn't say it has affected our music at all. Being from New York has definitely affected our music. Not that those two things are synonymous, but just definitely the diversity of New York. Even when we were street performing, just seeing all types of people. Street performing is like the ultimate this on steroids, because the show we're going to do tonight, you guys are kind of a captive audience. We could kind of do anything on stage and you guys would applaud in a weird way. But street performing was, we need to keep everybody's attention second to second. Every melody we sing needs to be catchy. Jack needs to do something cute because he was 8 years old. Every 5 seconds to catch their attention. And that kind of honed our skills. How do we win everybody second to second? And so I think you probably see a lot of that in our show now. Let's keep everybody entertained all the time. It's kind of, we can't shake that at this point. Oh, you're back on the Jewish thing, okay. Yeah, no, I think it has absolutely nothing to do with that, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so how do we go about deciding which songs are going to make the album and which aren't, and how do we decide about order? I find time really helps with knowing what's going to stay on the album, because when you're making a song, you kind of have to fall in love with it while you're making it if there's any chance of it being a good song, and therefore you become very biased and you fall in love with everything, even if it's not good, and the only way to be able to separate yourself from the song is give it a month. Don't listen to it for a month. Come back to it, and if it still gives you that excited feeling, then it's worth going on the album. And in terms of order, that's very much, again, just instinct. It's just like, we did the emotional one with Joe. Now what song is gonna cheer us up to bring us back on that roller coaster, just to kind of keep you entertained the whole time? Let me take 2 more questions. Yeah, in the back there.